Greetings and welcome. Looks like we are indeed broadcasting. Please type a 5 in the chat if you can see me and hear me, or shoot some emojis. I think hopefully you know by now how much I love emojis, especially the way they show up when I'm live here on YouTube. So it is awesome to be back. I totally missed you folks last week. And we've been in production on this new Source Energy Medicine certified coach training, and it's hard to contain the excitement. It was exciting, just talking about it for last several weeks, but now to actually have a whole bunch of eager folks who are in the training and producing most of the content together. We're literally creating this course together. So I am super grateful to have the opportunity to connect with you here today, live on YouTube, or perhaps you're watching this in replay. And just in case we have not yet met, my name is Stephen Pollitt, and I created Source Energy Medicine back in 2005, and I've been sharing it rather enthusiastically since. I created SEM Mondays as a way to be able to support mostly folks who are totally new to Source Energy Medicine, and yet we have some folks show up on SEM Mondays who have been around our community for a long time, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And sometimes they show up looking for their next step, right? What's next for them, or they have a question about something that they've been exploring at a deeper level. I was talking with someone the other day about my book, Heal Thyself. And I have heard this same story countless times, and it is often they'll read Heal Thyself very, very, very quickly, usually in one or two sittings, is not uncommon. And then they'll go back to it in 3 or 4 or 5 months, and they say it's like a completely different book. And the thing that fascinates me about that is, if you think about it from the perspective of Source Energy Medicine, when someone first finds Source Energy Medicine, pretty much a guarantee that your subconscious mind, or their subconscious mind, is calibrated below 200, which means their overall energy level would also be calibrated below 200. If you're totally new to Source Energy Medicine, this might not make any sense to you, but when we're done here today, if you search on YouTube, or you could search on Google for Source Energy Medicine and calibrated energy levels, I explain calibrated energy levels in pretty good depth. I think there's a playlist these days that's on our YouTube channel with a couple of different videos where I talk about the vital importance of transforming our overall energy level, and the most important aspect to transform is the subconscious mind. So when the subconscious mind is calibrated below 200, any book is going to be a different experience than when the subconscious mind calibrates higher. And ideally at my ideal energy level, then I'm able to really not only see the content from a different perspective, but the subconscious mind, when it calibrates below 200, is the saboteur, right? It will sandbag, sidetrack, block, help to slow progress. Procrastination is a phenomenal tool that the subconscious mind uses, and it'll use what's often referred to as destructive mindsets to talk you out of learning something, because the subconscious knows that if you read it, it basically knows that it's endangered, right? That the way it's currently functioning, which it's heavily invested in, is going to change. It's got to change. And Heal Thyself is one of those books, right? Because I shine the light on the subconscious mind and essentially call it out from the shadow into the light, so we could take a harsh look at it. We can see it for what it is, because when the subconscious mind calibrates below 200, the subconscious mind is not just out to inconvenience you or help you to play small or hide, but it is literally out to destroy your life in every way that it possibly can, and ultimately take your life. And it is, I know that sounds very dramatic, and yet it's the way the subconscious mind expresses itself, or the way it shows up, the way it functions when it calibrates below 200. When it calibrates above 200, it is definitely our greatest asset. It's part of our winning formula. If you think about it, at my ideal energy level, when my subconscious mind is calibrated at the same vibration, the same calibration, that's the most beautiful partnership we could experience as humans, right? It's the highest level of human partnership that we're capable of. When the subconscious mind calibrates below 200, its partner is the ego. And that's the worst possible partnership that you could ever, 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 ever imagine. Every time I think about this, I think of like a really, really good Hollywood screenwriter. And I don't think anyone in Hollywood has ever produced a villain as insidious and vicious and malicious as the subconscious mind and the ego. Once the subconscious mind is transformed, we still have the ego, but there are a lot of tools. So many amazing teachers who teach us how to use the ego and use the ego in a constructive way. Last week, or actually I guess it was 2 weeks ago, I was talking about A Course in Miracles. And one of the things that I absolutely love about A Course in Miracles is the way it addresses the ego, the way it looks at the ego, the way it talks about the ego, and the tools that it offers to be able to have the ego actually become an ally. I don't know that it'll ever become a strong asset, but it actually becomes an ally, less damaging, if you will, right? So I hope you know by now we're continuing with this extended format for SEM Mondays to support you during this health crisis. We'll be segueing. We're going to do a few minutes of questions and answers. If folks who are here with me live have any questions, there's a couple things that I wanted to talk about that have come in through chats that I've had with various people in our community. Probably one thing specifically. So if you have a question or have a comment, perceived frustration or breakthrough blessing, please share that in the chat, and then we'll segue into a group non-material source energy medicine session, which is the energy healing component. It's the energy healing part of source energy medicine. And if you're totally new and don't know anything about the non-material aspect of source energy medicine, simply when we're done here, check out our YouTube channel. You can search on YouTube source energy medicine and energy healing, or source energy medicine and non-material aspect, NON, material aspect. And it's called that because it's pure energy. There's no charging labels, no bottles, no water, no material substance. It is the same technology that we utilize in the charging labels, except it's the fastest, most direct, most efficient way that I could share source energy medicine with you. And that's the main reason why I've been including these group kind of mini non-material source energy medicine sessions as part of SEM Monday, specifically with the intention to help to transform the calibration of the physical aspect of your being. And it's, perfect that I was just talking about the subconscious mind, because that's the gateway. Without transforming the subconscious mind, we could never have a calibration of any other aspect of our being be above 200 for any length of time. We get glimpses of, our spiritual aspect or our soul potential, but we can't sustain that, and certainly not achieve that on the physical aspect. So let me just check the chat here real quick and see if we have any questions. Gosh, thank you for all of the cheers and the emojis. Thank you, Amana and Franco and Marina. Thank you. Awesome to have you here. And Ada, awesome. Barbara Ann, welcome. And Deb and Susie, awesome. Thank you for sharing the love and for your kind words. So I'll talk about this thing I want to talk about, and then I'll check Q&A, and then we'll segue into the group energy healing session, and then I'll check last call for questions. So if you have something that you've been sitting on or something you're curious about, please go ahead and type it into the chat, and I'll do my best to cover as much as we possibly can. And if you're watching this in replay, you can always leave a comment or question in the comment below this player. So I was chatting with someone who is in our community, and she gets source energy medicine. And If you've been around source energy medicine for any length of time, if you've explored all of the content that's in our free mini course, the Quick Start Guide, one of my favorite, you will have watched one of my favorite videos, and that's the one on expectations. It's been called a couple of different things recently, but one of the most frequently asked questions that I receive is source energy medicine going to work for me, or is it going to work for this particular challenge or this particular condition? Or what can I expect to experience from taking source energy medicine, right? What's it going to be like? And that video could be a master class. I mean, it is a master class. It's very condensed. It's very concise. A lot of people, here too, watching that video when your overall energy level is calibrated below 200 versus above 200, going to be a night and day difference, no question about it, in terms of contrasting experiences and what you glean from it. But in that video, I talk about how powerful our conscious and unconscious beliefs are, and the significant role that our conscious and unconscious beliefs play in our reality and creating our reality and the quote-unquote reality that I experience every day. And just to keep things super simple, a conscious belief is a belief that I hold, and I know I hold that belief, right? No surprises there. An unconscious belief is a belief that I hold that if you asked me, I'd likely say no, I don't hold that belief. But if I really thought about it, could be revealed that, I actually do believe that's true, but I wasn't aware of that. And that's all an unconscious belief is. There are a lot of people these days that talk about the unconscious the way I would describe the subconscious and vice versa. So I'd just like to clarify that, because unconscious is simply no conscious awareness, and that's it, right? And unconscious, or not only an unconscious belief, but like an unconscious behavior, right? I have a car that has a manual transmission, and I've been driving a manual transmission since, probably 16 years old. Not the same car. And although that would be cool, I guess depending on the car. But all of that is unconscious, right? I can be driving with a friend and we're having this amazing, amazing big talk kind of conversation, and I don't have to think about what gear I'm in or, any of those things. And if you think about if you've ever learned how to drive a manual transmission, it takes a tremendous amount of conscious concentration, right? Conscious awareness to be able to do all the things that you have to do and to have it all work, right? Without grinding gears or stalling, right? So unconscious beliefs can be very, very dangerous, right? Really, really, really challenging, because I'm not aware that I hold that belief. So back to my friend. My friend moved from an urban area to a much more rural area. And one of the things that she was looking forward to was less electromagnetic field activity, right? She would characterize herself as being highly sensitive. So getting out of the city into the countryside, not, much less densely populated, therefore many fewer electromagnetic fields or EMFs, and yet there's no place on this planet. You could be in the most remote place on this planet, and you cannot escape electromagnetic fields. You cannot escape G5, for example, which is interesting to think about. But in her mind, she's highly sensitive. She goes through a lot of things. She turns her Wi-Fi off at night and things like that. And yet, in the urban environment, she has neighbors, right, that are relatively close and they have Wi-Fi. So turning yours off could help, right? So she moved to the country. First couple of nights, everything was great. And then the cable guy came and hooked up their Wi-Fi, and it interrupted her sleep, right? Her sleep was very, very different. And her comment was, I know this isn't just in my mind, right? This is something because I'm having such a strong physiological response. And the first thing that I thought was, that's the worst place for it to be, is in your mind. So she has conscious beliefs, right? That A, she's a highly sensitive person, and be that EMFs have a strong negative effect on our overall physical energy, or physical aspect of our being, can have an effect on the calibration of our overall being. And here too, below 200 versus above 200, EMFs are completely different. At a high enough calibration, there is no such thing as EMFs, right? Because there is too big of a vibrational discord. So I look at my life before source energy medicine, and I too would have characterized myself as a highly sensitive being. And yet now I'm no longer affected by any of those things. I'm still aware of them. I don't turn off any of the electronic stuff. I do unplug consciously from all electronics, at a certain time every evening, so that my mind can have a chance to rest and rejuvenate and be in a much better state before I meditate and before I go to sleep. But I don't turn off our Wi-Fi stuff and all the things, right? So it's interesting to think. I often think of Marianne Williamson, the author, 7-time New York Times #1 best-selling author, one of Oprah Winfrey's favorite authors. I was talking about her again 2 weeks ago during the Course in Miracles conversation. But I remember Marianne often tells this story when she was early on in her study of A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles teaches us that there is no source of evil, that there is no devil per se, and that it's all in our mind. And something was going on, and she reminded herself, it's all in my mind, there's nothing to worry about. And then she had the realization that that's the absolute worst place for it to be, because it's the only place that actually would give that power, right? That would give that life, if you will, right? So having, beliefs about what I believe to be true about my physical body, what I believe to be true about what is helpful and what is not helpful, and what is damaging or potentially going to lead to dis-ease or sleep interruption, right? Or all different things, right? There are a lot of really good studies that show really strong evidence that would draw to conclusions that EMFs not good for human beings. And yet, I would say that that's kind of half the story, because when the physical aspect of my being calibrates below 200, there's a lot of things that are damaging because of the close vibrational matchup, right? Close vibrational proximity to those things and the physical aspect of my being. Like mercury fillings, for example. When my calibration was below 200, and, I'm talking a long time ago, and I learned about the potential dangers of all of those things, I came very, very close to having all the mercury fillings removed. And this was about this time I was having the awareness of calibration of the physical aspect of our being. So I figured, let me hold off on that and see what my experience is like, because I know what it was like, because I had, some of those starting when I was a child. And now, so I still have the same fillings, and I still have some, I don't know how old the oldest some of them are, but very, very different experience when it's calibrated below 200 versus calibrated above 200. Calibrated above 200, everything in my body gets transformed at the same time, right? So what is noxious below 200, no longer noxious above 200. And of course, the higher you go on the scale, the higher your ideal energy level, the greater the difference is, the greater the disparity is. So there is always, for me, this before source energy medicine and after source energy medicine, calibrated below 200 versus calibrated above 200 filter that I always look through. But then I always have my conscious and unconscious beliefs to explore. Quite a while ago, we produced a 30-day belief challenge to help folks, because I used to say, I still say, in an ideal world, everyone should explore healing on the subconscious aspect, which is primarily the realm of source energy medicine. It does spill over, source energy medicine, that is, does spill over a little bit into the conscious and unconscious, and more within the energy healing component of source energy medicine. But the um, the way we address the subconscious mind is really the core strength of source energy medicine. So if I don't do anything to explore what I believe to be true about my physical body, about the source of my physical body, about life, about death, about disease, sex, money, career, creativity, if I don't do anything to explore what I believe to be true about all of those things, then I'm going to have conscious and unconscious beliefs that are going to undermine the effectiveness of source energy medicine. I hope this makes sense. And here's my friend who understands source energy medicine very well, and yet, from my perspective, there's still work to do on conscious and unconscious side of the equation before she can completely transcend those beliefs, because those beliefs are leading to fear, and it's the fear that's leading to turning off the EMF, right? Or even wanting to get out of the city. That's I'm sure there were a lot of contributing factors that went into the decision, right? So a lot of huge benefits to living in the countryside for most folks. But if you move to the countryside out of fear, guess what? Your beliefs are moving with you, right? You can move to the most isolated, you can create the most beautiful sanctuary, but if you don't do something about your beliefs and literally examine them and choose to consciously change them and shine the light on some things that you might be unconscious of, you're not aware that you hold those beliefs, there's still going to be missing pieces in your healing journey. And very often with source energy medicine, we get to a point where what's missing, right? What's left to help to get to 100% positive results is within the realm of working on beliefs, conscious beliefs and unconscious beliefs. So I'm not sure when we're going to open registration again on that 30-day challenge. It's a pretty big thing to orchestrate, because it is there's a lot of logistics, but at some point in the near future we will offer it again. And before I produced that, I used to just talk about this and say, yeah, go off and explore conscious and unconscious beliefs. And what I found over time was, especially with some of our practitioners, was they weren't doing it right. They didn't know where to go, they didn't know what to do, they didn't know how to go about it. So I ended up creating the 30-day belief challenge, and it is the kind of work that I've gone through that process and similar processes dozens and dozens of times, and every time I still learn something. I still find an unconscious belief somewhere, or a conscious belief that I would modify, that I would change slightly, update. So it's interesting to think about, and just to kind of tie all of this conversation together, below 200 versus above 200, everything is different. And of course, within source energy medicine, a huge goal, right? One of the primary goals, really cornerstone and the foundation of source energy medicine, is to transform the calibration of every aspect of our being, not just physical, but mental, spiritual, emotional, relationships, career, creativity, finances, everything, so that ideally every aspect of my being is calibrated at the same frequency, right? The same calibration, which is my ideal energy level, or what I describe as my ideal energy level. So I hope all of that makes sense. If you have questions that you've been sitting on, now would be a really, really good time to type something into the chat. I'm going to start segueing into the group energy healing aspect or segment of this SEM Mondays Live. If some folks like to send healing requests, and please know that emails that come in that are healing requests, I always see them, right? I rarely reply, but please know if you send a healing request that I receive it, that it's part of my outline, that it's part of the intentions for the session. And yet, in reality, I don't have to know your healing request, because especially within this energy healing work, you are always healing yourself. And I say especially because it might look like, the energy work is doing it, or I'm facilitating it, or, I don't look at my role as that of a quote unquote healer, but a lot of people would see me in that role. And sure, I'm facilitating the process, right, the session, but in every instance and all ways, you are indeed healing yourself. And that's true outside of source energy medicine too, right? If you take plant medicine that has healing properties or believed to have healing properties and you have a positive experience, that's still source energy in you. It's source energy in the plant that is actually contributing to the positive experience that you're having. So I think that's really, really important to for you to know. And that's also the reason why I don't have to know what your goal is. I don't have to know what your challenge is in order for you to receive that gift or to receive that blessing. And I always strongly encourage you to choose a single goal or a single challenge. And the reason why I say that is because if you just kind of lump everything all together, it's hard to track progress, right? It's hard to see where there are measurable results. Whereas if you choose one goal or one challenge per session, you could watch the replay of this 10 times, and each time choose a different goal, choose a different challenge, and experience that. And this work is equally effective whether you're watching it live or in replay. And this is the one time that I will state this caveat, I guess, to that statement, and that has to do with your beliefs, right? Your conscious or unconscious beliefs. If you have a conscious belief that you have to be with me live, or you have to be with me in person, right? We have to be in the same time, space, reality. We have to be in the same office in order for this work to be effective. That will absolutely have an effect on your experience. So based on my experience, there is no question in my mind that we absolutely do not need to be in the same time, space, reality. And more often than not, that gets in the way and can actually hinder the process sometimes. But for the only time it helps is if you have a very, very, very strong belief that we have to be in the same time, space, reality for it to work. So watching it in replay there too, just know, based on my experience, there's equal benefit to both, and there is definitely added benefit to watching or experiencing, energetically experiencing a session 10 times, right? 2, 3, 4, 5 times. There are a lot of people since this COVID pandemic started who have been watching the replay of SEM Mondays and fast forwarding to the group energy healing part once or twice a day just to help to maintain their energy level. Because that is the key to your health and well-being, right? It's the key to everything, right, in terms of success. So, again, if you're new to the non-material aspect of source energy medicine, just check out the video on our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions after watching that, just post your questions in the comments below the player. And it's important for you to know that this work is phenomenally fast. It'll probably be just 5 minutes or so. And on your end, even though you are indeed healing yourself, I don't need you to do anything. So as much as possible, do nothing, which is sometimes hard to do. So your job literally is simply to allow, trust the process, and receive. I turn my camera off, so what I'm doing isn't distracting. I'll put some chanting music on so that you know that we're still broadcasting. And I think it's also important for you to know that since it is the source of all creation in you that is actually responsible for the transformation, for the balance, for the restoration, for the blessings and miracles, there's no order of difficulty, right? There's no such thing as a little or a minor challenge and a significant or a major challenge. To the source of all creation, everything is easy, right? So I invite you to get as comfortable as possible. If you're in a place that's safe and appropriate and it feels comfortable for you to close your eyes or lay down and close your eyes, please do that. If none of that is true, then please don't. Obviously, if you're driving or flying an airplane, don't close your eyes. Or if you're, in a public space, you can simply find a spot on the floor or a spot on the wall and focus your attention on that, and soften your gaze a little bit. Right, it just actually helps to slow down your mind, lowers resistance, which will lead to an increase of allowance, of this work. So, that said, I don't see anything in the chat, so I'm going to invite you to get nice and comfortable and take a nice deep breath and simply allow yourself to receive. Allow yourself to receive the blessings that are unfolding here for you. As much as possible, I invite you to trust in the divine orchestration that led to this moment, to this experience here and now. As much as possible, try and see yourself and see your goal or your challenge, that which you would like to focus on in this session. Try and see it the way the source of all creation sees it. And recognize that there is nothing that's outside the scope of potential or possibility. And I believe that when the source of all creation gazes upon you, the source of all creation sees you as a perfect being, as an innocent, holy, eternal being. Know that the source of all creation can not gaze upon you, which is to say the source of all creation is always gazing at you, always loving you, always blessing you, always cheering you on and encouraging you, always leading you to your next step that will help you. I believe the source of all creation sees each of us as innocent, free of sin, which enables me to be free of guilt, and truly innocent, truly perfect, truly whole, truly complete, truly eternal. Continue to breathe comfortably and simply allow. I invite you to take a nice deep breath. Continue to allow. Continue to receive. And please know that even though this work is phenomenally fast and elegant and without catharsis or drama, this work will continue to unfold for you. It'll continue to be literally uploaded, downloaded, pardon me, and installed into every aspect of your being for hours to come. And it's just the way that our physical body, and I see it as a way of it like metabolizing, right? It's a way of my body integrating the work. So just know that the blessings will continue. The work will actually continue on. And that's one of the main reasons why there definitely is huge benefit to re-experiencing, revisiting a session a second or a third or a fourth time. And trust your inner guidance, trust your intuition as to when to do that or how often to do that. But these days it's never, ever been more important to achieve and sustain and maintain your ideal energy level. When you're able to do that, then I believe that is that's returning to the kingdom of heaven. That is the way I believe the source of all creation intended me to have this life experience. The below 200 stuff is all human-made, right? The way the subconscious mind functions when it calibrates below 200 is human-caused, right? And then, of course, the effect of that is devastating. So I don't see any questions. Oh gosh, thank you, Deb, for your kind comment. Deb says, thank you for everything you do. X's and O's. Thank you, Deb. Awesome to have you with us, and I so appreciate your kind words. And Amana says, great healing. Feels so good with capital S-O. I love that. And she says, thank you, Stephen. And all so grateful in all caps. Thank you, Amana. And, for me, like I so embrace your gratitude, and I feel it. I really, really feel it. I get like goosebumps on my bones reading your comments. And even if you're watching this in replay, I always love knowing how this work lands for you. Like for some people, it will be miraculous. And for other people, it will be peaceful and calm and relaxing, which is still miraculous. But I think it's important to not compare, right, experiences between each other or from one session to the next. But without you to receive this work, it's just philosophy, right? It's just cool stuff to talk about. So bless you, Deb, bless you, Amana, for receiving this work very deeply, right? Very profoundly, for getting it, and for being bold enough and courageous enough to explore the unknown. I love that within every aspect of source energy medicine, the worst thing that can happen is nothing, and the best thing that can happen would be nothing short of what would be described as a blessing or a miracle. So thank you, Susie. Susie says, thank you and blessings with a cool little heart emoji. Thank you, Susie. So God willing, I will indeed be back here live with you next Monday, same time, for another installment of SEM Mondays. Between now and then, I strongly encourage you to check out, in terms of experience, the energy healing session from any of the SEM Mondays for the last, 8 months into this thing. And honor the healing process, right? As much as possible, give yourself time to disconnect from the stress, disconnect from the fear. We are experiencing as humans unprecedented levels of fear and uncertainty and trauma, and for an extended period of time. So be gentle with yourself. Take advantage of the group energy healing sessions, knowing that the worst thing that can happen is nothing, and huge unlimited potential and possibility every time that you take the time to experience this work. So, thank you, Barbara Ann. Barbara Ann says, thank you so much. Very peaceful. Blessings with a cool, very cool pink heart emoji. Thank you all, my friends. And again, God willing, I'll see you back here next Monday. And if you have any healing requests between now and then, just send them to me by email or post them somewhere. You'd hopefully know where to post. If you're totally new to Source Energy Medicine, this is your first SEM Mondays Live, subscribing to this channel absolutely helps me to help you. If you click that totally cool little bell icon, YouTube will notify you when I'm live or when I upload a new video. I think at this point, our YouTube channel is a wealth of information, a phenomenal resource. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. So if you're looking for a particular answer to Source Energy Medicine, just type in the search bar, Source Energy Medicine, and whatever it is that you'd like to learn more about, like subconscious mind, and it should show up. If you ever have questions and you can't find videos on our YouTube channel, let me know. That's how we come up with new topics, and it's how I know what you want to learn about. The quick start guide that I mentioned, the free mini course, which isn't such a mini course anymore, it's a course. It's pretty in-depth. I'll make sure that there is a link provided in the description to this video below. It's free. It contains everything that's essential to your journey with Source Energy Medicine, and lots of videos, lots of handouts, of course, the complete charging label file, which enables you to make every Source Energy Medicine in your home. And I started this conversation talking about my book, Heal Thyself. An electronic copy of the latest edition, a current edition, which is the 3rd edition, is included in there too. That's all I have for you today, my friends. I wish you continued blessings on your journey with Source Energy Medicine.